Welcome to Howz Yer Stool, the show where we pull up a stool and find out how things are really going. Not just the gigs, not just the music, but what's happening when the amps and the lights get turned off. Because if you ask a musician how they're doing, you'll get one answer, but if you check their stool, you might get the truth. I'm your host, Dave Randall, and today I'm sitting down with Dwane Dixon. So let's get a stool sample. Hey, greetings, Dwane. Nice to have you here.
It's great to be here, Dave.
Thank
you so much. It's my pleasure, brother. My pleasure.
All the way out here.
Oh, yeah.
So as I said, we're just going to have conversations about music. And so
I love it.
We're going to look at your stool from both sides. But before we get into it, hey, just like people know you, but, you know, where are you from? Where were you born? Where do you live? Where are you going? What are your pronouns? All that interview kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I was born in NDG, below the tracks, in the unglamorous side, below Upper Lachine, which at the time was a very Italian neighborhood. So all my childhood friends were Gino, Enzo, Franco, Johnny, Pino, Gino, and their parents always had great gardens and homemade pasta and
rabbits and
all kinds
chickens.
of killing chickens in the backyard for Sunday dinner, the whole deal. It was actually a wonderful place to grow up at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I moved to Chateauguay. Probably when I was on the South Shore, probably when I was about 9 years old or so. Mm-hmm. And those were my formative years. That's where I got into music. I started playing drums at around 9. I wanted to be like my big brother who was in a garage
big
band.
Brother.
Yeah. I had a very musical childhood. My dad could play 3 chords on anything. He wasn't great at it, but he could screech out a nice tune on a fiddle, and do some country fiddling, play a little harmonica. He knew 3 chords on the guitar, but he was always missing that 4th chord, So, but there's always music playing at home, and I don't ever remember a time before wanting to be a musician or being involved in music somehow. Mm-hmm. So Chateauguay, was where I learned to play guitar. There was not much to do out there. It was a very, very quiet suburb back in the day, So it was the joke was you either got into sports, you got into music, or you got into trouble. Those were the 3 things to do in Chateauguay back in the mid '70s. So so I lived there, and then back in Montreal, I went to university at Concordia, and I studied music there.
Okay.
So after years in and around the music scene, I actually formalized my education. I took theory and composition at Concordia, and I did 4 years there. And then I just went to work. I was in my mid-20s by then, and I just started working. I worked at Steve's Music Store.
Did you?
Yeah, down on St. Antoine Street
Nice.
in the rental department. I did about a good 6-7 years there, which
Wow.
was a great learning platform, being in
networking
and
opportunity.
networking, all kinds of things. I did a lot of tech work at the beginning of my career because people would come in and rent things. We also would have Sony Music come in, A&M Music, and they would rent a bunch of stuff for a launch, and I would get lots of gigs as a sound tech doing that stuff. And Saturday when the store would close, whatever was left in rentals, I could take home for the weekend and bring back on Monday. As long as it was back at 9 o'clock on Monday morning when the doors opened, I had free reign. So that's where I really started to learn how to record and get a handle on sound tech and stuff. I'm as at home in the studio as I am on stage. I love the locked away my little mad scientist laboratory.
This is what
I love it here.
This is my room. Yeah.
I feel like I'm at home here. This is great.
Yeah, and I same as you. I equally a musician and tech kind of guy, and so let me let's get into your music. So
sure.
What's your earliest memory of music and the impact it had on you?
Wow. Well, some of the earliest memories of music were parties in our living room on Girward Street in NDG, and my parents used to like to. Oh, there was a very vibrant nightlife, you know, families, cousins, aunts, uncles, they would all get together, and they wouldn't go out. And I mean, I come from a poor family, you know, my dad was working class, born in 1930.
A happy family, you mean?
A happy family. It's true. It's true. It's true. We had everything we needed, but, you know, we didn't go out a lot and go to, you know, on big vacations, but it was all about, you know, having, partying around the kitchen table. Sort
Good
of thing,
you,
right?
yeah.
That was the kind of environment I grew up in. So music was always around. My dad would always pull out the guitar. There was always a piano around, even though nobody really played the piano. But there was always an upright piano in the living room, which I'd tinker on. And so my earliest memories were just there was always music on. And Sunday was like our church was all the albums that he put on, you know, Johnny Cash in San Quentin, Johnny Cash in Folsom Prison, Elvis, Aloha Hawaii, all that stuff. And that was our church. We would just listen to records all day Sunday.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
And I realized early on that I could remember the words and I could remember the melody, like long before I ever picked up a guitar or anything like that. I really had an affinity to music, and I used to listen to CKGM when I was a little kid, go to sleep at night. That would put me to sleep at night, you know? So yeah.
Wake up to Ralph Lockwood.
Yeah. But my earliest memories of live music was my brother Dennis, who's the closest to me in age right now. I'm 61. He's going to be 75. So he's my closest sibling, and then I have a sister who's 1 year older than him and a brother who's 1 year older than her. So 3 in a row, and then 15 years, and then whoops, here comes Dwane, you know? Yeah.
The baby.
And you know what they say about, you know, being the youngest in the family and also being, you know, the fourth child. I was right from the get-go. It was the Dwane show. I was not shy. I was not, I was the center of attention, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's great, and that's great they fostered it in you.
Yeah, and I have to say that although my dad would give me hell if I asked him for a new pair of sneakers I just bought you 6 months ago. Meanwhile, they're tattered and torn. You know what 11-year-old boys do to sneakers, right? You went through this, right?
Yes.
So, you know,
they just fall apart.
Yeah, and he would give me bloody hell for asking for a new pair of shoes, but he, like, my first guitar was a Fender guitar, and then my first Cirrus Electric was a Gibson Electric, and he really, really, I guess he saw some talent in me, or he saw the passion that I had for music, and he really fostered that. Although, you know, I didn't wear the cool clothes at school. I always had a nice guitar and a nice amp and something to work with, so I'll be forever grateful for that.
Yeah. That's all you can really ask your parents, right? Just take care of me and let me be me.
Yeah.
And good for you. Yeah.
And I think with the connection that he had with music too, he saw how important it was to me, because he was a big music lover.
Well, yeah, because you guys listened to music around the home.
All the time.
It was part of it. My upbringing was slightly different. My parents were talk radio people.
Oh, okay.
So CJAD was...
That played all the time.
You know, in the car, driving anywhere, it was CJAD and export a cigarette smoke blowing.
Yeah. Don't open the window.
Yeah.
Right.
And at home, the one sort of... introduction of music was my dad was a big fan of the pipe and drum bands,
fun.
The Highland game kind of thing. So they had their Viking stereo, the big wooden console,
piece of furniture. Exactly. Take up your whole living room.
Yeah, and he'd put on the pipe and drum music. Anyway, it was interesting for me, but it was really my older sister and her record collection.
Right.
And CKGM.
Right.
I instantly gravitated to that. So your first instrument was a guitar, your dad's guitar, maybe?
Yeah, my very first instrument were drums, because I wanted to be like my older brother. So my older brothers, I think I got a little bit off track. So my first experience with live music was my older brother Dennis playing drums in a garage band, and they would just play Elvis and CCR and that kind of stuff. So for me to see three human beings making in a band, they did a pretty close facsimile of music. They were pretty decent, you know. And I was just absolutely fascinated by that. It was like magic. I remember being like 3 years old and watching them play, like just, whoa, like that's magic.
It is, yeah.
You know, so I think that was my first. So my first instrument was drums, and I played that for a couple of years. And then, of course, as a 10, 11-year-old boy, you get a little bit bored. I play around along to my records. I see you got some Kiss records up here. I think. Kiss
Yeah.
Alive. Kiss Alive,
too,
the first one. I went nuts on that album. That album changed my life. That's when I knew what instrument I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Because before Kiss, so I was 1975. I was 10 years old, and my friend brings over Kiss Alive, and I just looked at the cover. It's like it was like from another planet. And then I opened it up, and they had that massive booklet. I'm like, oh my God, that's the guitar player. And then I would listen to it and I'd say, wow, that's the guitar player. That's the lead guitar player. For the first time in my life, because I would listen to pop radio. Pop radio was very slick. You didn't always understand what the instruments were. It was just, like a big sonoric cake with vocals on top, because it was very vocal oriented. And it was the first time that I said, oh, that's a guitar riff. And that's... And then I started like, man, I want to play guitar, And my dad brought home a Fender acoustic guitar, not an expensive one. And there's a 17-year-old kid who used to cut our grass, and I was like 11 at the time. And he cut our grass, and he'd come in and play a few songs on the guitar, but like cool songs like Stairway to Heaven and Wish You Were Here. And so he showed me how to play Stairway to Heaven. He showed me how to play Wish You Were Here. But when I learned the songs, I also learned the words. It was just natural for me that I would learn the words, because I was raised in pop music, and the vocal was everything. And I had a gift for remembering the words to things. So I started playing and singing guitar singing and playing guitar simultaneously kind of happened for me as I started learning songs.
Well, that's a big jump forward for when you're learning, if that comes naturally to you.
Yeah. So I can play all kinds of crazy rhythms and sing over it, because it's just the two are completely connected. And I can even sing when I play drums. I used to love Levon Helm too. I'd watch the band. I'd look at Levon Helm singing behind the drums. And I thought he was the coolest dude in the world, man. And then Don Henley came around, and I'm like, look, another guy who sings behind the drums. I used to love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, singing and playing was always something that came together for me.
It's funny. I play guitar and I sing. That's what I call it. But
you have a nice natural tenor voice, I think. Eh?
Oh, not quite. I struggle to get there.
Okay.
But what was I going to say about singing? So I picked up bass later on. Being in a band, there was a bass lying there. I picked it up and plucked around with it. I cannot sing and play bass at the same time. Even if I know the bass line intuitively, it's just like, what? I can't get the words out.
Yeah. It's the old rub your tummy, pat your head thing,
well,
right?
yeah, even more so. But with guitar, it's such a rhythmic thing, whereas bass, you're on the notes and you're listening to the drummer, whereas on the guitar, I always referred to it as window dressing. You just play.
Yeah.
So you started singing and playing, and did you? What was the first songs you learned on your guitar?
Yeah, well, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
which took me a long time, because that was my first song, right?
Yeah,
but I could remember it. I could remember making music out of the guitar almost immediately. Sure, you'd flub notes and your fingers are not strong enough to, but I would remember the patterns, and I was like, wow, okay. And I just worked on Stairway to Heaven and Wish You Were Here, which was a lot easier. Right, because it's just this G and C and D and A minor and all that, so that was okay. So those were the first two, and then after that, it was when I was 12 years old. I met my two guys that would be really influential in my life musically, which was my buddy Scott and my friend Rob. These two guys played guitar together, and they had a friend, Ken, who played drums, and I would go over to their jams, and I played drums at the time, just starting on guitar, and Ken was that much better than me on guitar. And I remember 25, 30 years later, I found a Polaroid at my friend's house of the three of us in this basement. So I would play the first two songs on drums, and then Ken would get on, and that was it for me after that. I didn't play anymore because, they didn't want to downgrade back to me after Ken was on the drums. So there's a picture of me sitting on the couch with my arms crossed, little 12-year-old Dwane, all disappointed, right? But it was that day that I said, that's it. I'm switching to guitar. I'm going to be a pure guitar player. And then from there, I started jamming with these guys with somebody else on drums, and I joined a band with Scott. My first band at 13 years old. We were playing all the...
Now, is this in NDG or is this in Chattagee?
Chattagee, yeah, because nothing happened. I was too young in NDG still. Everything happened when I moved to Chattagee because there was nothing to do. Didn't have friends there. I was the new kid.
Yeah.
But I met these two guys, and we had music in common. So I joined Scott's band, which was called Fury. Yeah, we had his mother made white T-shirts with Fury written across, and I had a white Les Paul copy and blonde hair, and my hair was very blonde back then because I was still a kid, right?
Right.
And Scott would play a black Strat, and he had dark hair, so we were like the complement.
Black and
white. It was so
yeah.
cheesy, but it was funny, and we would play things like. I don't know. Ted Nugent, Styx was huge.
You had somebody who could sing Styx? Was that you?
Yeah, I could sing some of the Styx songs, like Sweet Man and Blue and all that stuff. It was my voice has always been very pliable. I'm even though I'm a baritone, naturally I can sing like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. It was just it just came naturally. I guess because I've been singing my whole life. I didn't become an adult and then start singing because your voice kind of forms, right? I was always twisting my voice.
Yeah.
And I could scream. I realized I could scream. We used to do Revolution by the Beatles.
Yes.
Wow. And I would be the guy who would do that screaming. I could do it over and over and over and not wreck my voice.
Well, there's the thing. Yeah, don't wreck your voice. Those screams.
So that was my first, and we would literally, I was too young to drive, right? I was 13 years old. I'd literally go to parties around Chattagee with my little red wagon with my guitar and my amplifier, and we would go to Canadian Tire, and we bought a big panel with all these like cluck light switches, and we had a whole bunch of boxes of colored floodlights, and so we would bribe our friends to sit behind the board and do the lights for a few beers, kind of thing. And not that I was drinking beer, I was 13.
13, yeah, of course not. No. Boys and girls.
So that was the beginning of my career. So immediately I was just playing in front of people at every chance I got, and that probably lasted a couple of years, which from 13 to 15 it seems like forever. And then I moved back to Montreal because my dad was not in good health, and we need to be close to a hospital because his health was failing.
Sure.
And I just continued on playing. I never stopped, and I'd always, get in bands. And we had a little flat in Verdun, and I had a little place with a drum kit, and like my dad was always very, very generous with his gear. Mm-hmm. So I was always well stocked, and I played, and I just took it upon myself to seek out the right guitar teacher, and I looked for years to try to find some, because I wanted to play lead guitar. I didn't just want to play songs. I wanted to learn how to solo. So it took me a while, and I found the right guy, and I went. I remember it was called the Guitar Study Center in Westmount, on the corner of Sherbrooke and like Victoria, and it was upstairs. And I took my first guitar lesson, and this guy showed me. He showed me how the guitar worked. The caged system. Like how all the shapes of the scales hook up from one end of the neck to the other, and it was like a light bulb went on, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the key to the kingdom."
Yes.
And 3 months later, I was teaching guitar at that school I was in my early 20s by the time. So I had already had like 10 years of experience, 10 years of practical playing. And then all of a sudden somebody took the blinders off, with this newfound information. And then I said, well, I'm definitely going for a career in music now. And that's when I said, well, then I better go back to school. And it was about a year after that I enrolled in Concordia. Back then it was a fine arts department with a specialty in music.
Were you able to keep performing?
No.
Were you performing at that point?
Yeah, I was performing, not like as a pro, but there was lots of shows being on.
So this is like the early '80s, I'm guessing.
Yeah, mid to late '80s.
Mid to late
'80s. Yeah, and so I did my audition in Concordia on classical guitar. I taught myself a little piece by Johann Sebastian Bach,
Wow.
and I wrote a piece.
Wow.
Because now I think I know how music works. Right? So I wrote a piece, but of course, thankfully it was the guitar teacher and the composition teacher who were my adjudicators.
Yes,
adjudicating my
application.
my audition. So they saw that although I didn't know what I was doing, that I had a good raw talent and understanding of music.
Yes, yeah.
So I got in, but I got in so low that I had to do music 100 for non-musicians, right? Like, because I didn't know it. Like, I wrote out my score of my little classical guitar creation, but of course all the stems were on the wrong side, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was enough to get me in, and that started. And then I stopped playing guitar altogether, and I switched to piano, and I took 4 years of piano lessons because I wanted to learn to read scores. I wanted to write for piano and voice and oboe and clarinet, and I fancied myself a little mini Mozart or something like that. I wanted to learn all that stuff. So I did 4 years of and I didn't play at all. I just completely engrossed myself in my studies. And I went from somebody who absolutely hated high school and just scraped by the skin of his teeth. Within 1 year, I was like in the top of my class.
You find your passion.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And the teacher would say, "Okay, next class we're going to talk about this," and I'd go straight to the library, and I'd like, oh, yeah. And then so I was always ahead of the curve on that, and I loved music theory, like so many people don't. I really loved it. I hated math because I didn't understand what mathematics was about. I didn't like the way that it was taught because I said, well, what am I going to use? Algorithms and logarithms, and so I didn't care about it. But when I got into music theory, it was its own form of mathematics. But I'm like, wow, I'm all over this stuff.
Yeah,
I loved it because it was explaining art, kind of, and I was just wow.
Yeah,
that's just me. I just like to know how things work. I'm super curious about. I'm the kid who would take apart his transistor radio to see how it worked and then not be able to put it back together. I got in trouble for doing that a few times, but that's kind of how my brain works. So I really enjoyed that whole process.
Well, yeah, that really prepares you for the future. You can, when you know how stuff works and fits together, there's a rationale to it. There's a logic to it, and it's not just magic.
Yeah. Or you're not just doing something by rote because someone said do it this way.
Yes.
Right? Well, why do you do it that way, Al?
Yeah.
Oh man, when I was 3 years old, I probably asked why on every single answer that my parents would give me. I must have been really, really a pain in the butt.
I have a granddaughter like you. She asks a lot of questions, and we encourage it.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's their brains forming, right? Yeah.
Was there a specific moment that pushed you toward your current genre or style? Like, tell me I'm wrong, but if somebody asked me, someone who's never seen you, I'd say, well, there's blues and some country in there as well. Mm-hmm. So, let us know if that's where you feel you're at.
Yeah, certainly. Well, country was something that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Like, all the outlaw country guys, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson. That stuff was always on at home. So and Tammy Wynette, George Jones, all that stuff.
George Jones.
So like I was raised on country music. So when the 90s came around and there was that second wave of it, it's like, oh yeah, okay. So they turned the drums up a little bit, they turned the guitar up a little bit, but it's basically the same thing. So I was digging Dwight Yoakam and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I loved and I absolutely adored.
Give me that soul.
Oh, my song. They're playing our song, Dave.
We'll have a listen to it now. I wasn't paying attention, but
melody. Play by rockin' band. Come on and take
Just
my
to say,
hand.
when I mix
Slow
this,
dancing with
I
my
could have moved it, but
baby.
this is free form, so.
That's okay. It's all right. We're good.
When I was a young boy, I listened to the radio, waiting for my favorite song. Riding in the backseat, keeping time with my feet, and I would always sing along. Hard to find the station, so much static on the AM. The DJ was my best friend. Every day my song would play.
How long ago did you record
Maybe
this?
even 10 times a day. Life was
actually,
so much simpler
5
then.
years, 6 years ago.
Wow, I know, eh?
Oh my God! It was April 2020. It was during the lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was my therapy. I had to do something. We were completely locked down, stuck at home.
Played by a rockin' band. Come on and take my hand. Slow dancing with my baby.
Yeah, I feel this has a bit of a country twang to it.
Yeah, it's really. It was like a tip of the hat to those 70s pop anthems like Drift Away
Sure,
or
yeah.
Dobie Gray, stuff like that.
Hanging out with my best friend.
Because it was by this time in the pandemic, we were fairly well into it,
Every
and
day seemed like
it seemed like every day there was more and more bad news coming out, and this was I think the 6th song that I did in the series, because I said I have to do something. So once a week I would write a song, and I'd write a song, I completely produce it, I played all the instruments, mix it, get it ready. That was my week's work.
And you did this, the mixing at home, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
recorded everything at home?
Everything at home, yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And that was my therapy. So after so many weeks of just bad news, I said, man, there's a time where life was simpler. And I said, well, what's the one of the most simple, beautiful pleasures in the world is a person just falling in love with the tune that they hear on the radio. It was so innocent, and it really felt like at that time we were losing our innocence as a society. This was a turning point. Things will never be the same after this point, even though we've kind of returned to normal.
Little did we know what was coming.
Right? Yeah, that was only the beginning. Oh my God. Yeah. So this is my tip of the hat to those 70s pop anthems that I grew up listening to on CKGM. But yeah, definitely there's a little bit of country in everything I do, I think. Yeah. It's part of my DNA.
Maybe it's the harmonies. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't hear a Telecaster in there, so it's not like real country.
No, exactly. Yeah, the drums are a little bit rock and roll too.
Yeah.
So this is definitely not blues anyway.
It is not.
But I love playing bass too. Like I listen to the bass line too on this. And I think bass is really important, man. You got to get that right.
Yeah. Did you play the drums on this track as well? Wow.
Yeah, I played everything. Yeah.
I'm a utility drummer. I can put a simple beat, but then I get a real drummer. Well, that was fantastic.
Well, thank you so much.
Folks, that was called Soul Song, and I think that's available on your website.
Yeah. If you go to
listen to.
DwaneDixon.com, there's some music there. I've got my stuff up on Bandcamp. So going back to the question that you asked just before the song started, blues, country, but I studied classical music in school. I'm also an old metalhead from the 80s. The Holy Trinity for me back in the day was Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Motorhead, right?
Wow.
That was the Holy Trinity. Also, I loved. I like all kinds of music, and I guess one of the biggest challenges that I've had in my career so far is to be able to pigeonhole myself into one style, because I mean, I have unreleased songs that are in a reggae form. I have other unreleased songs that are like hip hop, you know? Like, I just, like, if I get a good idea and I like it, I'll go with it. But that's what songwriters do, right? So yeah, it was sometime it was 2010. I had done 10 years in an original act. It's called Top Johnny. And we played kind of modern hard rock, classic rock, a little bit of metal in there, a little bit of pop. And I hammered away at that for 10 years. And it was a really tough slug. It's really hard to break into the music business. And it was also at the time where, you know, just as I was getting to my first serious original project, Napster and all that stuff came in. So kind of like the bottom fell out of the music business, you know. And then now we're in streaming and all that stuff. So here I am, I find myself in my mid 40s, and what am I going to do now? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I was pretty naive even in my 40s. I thought, well, now I'm an old man, I can't play rock anymore. So I love blues too. Blues is another one of my, you know, my early childhood loves, B.B. King and all that stuff. I just, and you know, all the British Invasion, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin was a huge influence on me.
Sure.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
You know, so I said, well, I could do some blues. So I made my first blues record in 2013. And it was, you know, I was very much into Stevie Ray Vaughan and stuff like that. But you can hear, you know, Jeff Healey in there, and you can hear all kinds of other stuff. And you can hear some rockabilly influences too, because I thought, well, that's it. I'm just an old man now, so I'm just going to play blues, right? So I did that for the last, 10 years or so. I put out 3 blues albums called Black Satin Blues in 2013, Working Man Blues. And see, that's the thing about blues. Everything's got to be called blues, right? And then I did Betting on a Gambling Man in 2019. And that was the last kind of blues album I did. And it got more country tinged as I was continuing. Like, Betting on a Gambling Man has got some country twinge in there for sure. And then during the pandemic, I wrote 14 Days in a Hole, which was 8 digital songs that I never printed them or anything, and they're very different than my albums, because I was just saying, you know, who knows when the world will open up again. I'm just writing the music I feel like. I'm writing what comes to me, what's inspiration. I would just lock myself away all week in my studio and force myself to come out with a mixed tune by the end of the week to release, and just, you know, to have something to do. So,
do you listen to a lot of music, like on the radio or Spotify?
I don't.
You don't? Okay,
I don't.
Cool. Good point.
I
Yeah?
don't.
All right. Because I was going to ask, do outside influences
very much so
factor in? Like,
very much so.
Because I'm definitely, like, I'll be listening, I'll have Spotify playlist or radio in the car, although I don't listen to much radio. And I'll hear something and go, oh, I want to write a song like that, you know? And it's like, no, it's not me, for one thing. I'll just enjoy that.
Yeah.
But, so you, especially when you're in the midst of writing these songs, you must try to tune out.
Well, what I hate about writing songs is that when you write a song and then you show it to your buddy and they go, oh, that sounds just like this song. You're like, what? Oh, damn, you're right. I was unconsciously, channeling this. I love that song. I'd like to write one like that, right? And that's exactly what. And then I got to scrap it. But then sometimes you go back to that, you know, a couple of years later, and you go, oh, but there is this one part in there that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, you know, a new song will come out of that. But yeah, my big challenge is that I'm such a music lover of so many different varieties that, you know, for a while it was Black Sabbath, and then after Black Sabbath it was Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then after Stevie Ray Vaughan it was Heart. I fell in love with Heart. I would listen to Heart like nonstop, and you know, and then it was Ronnie James Dio, you know, Rainbow or Deep Purple or something like that.
Oh, so, I loved Ritchie Blackmore.
Oh man, like I think Rainbow is such an underrated, like especially him with Cozy Powell and Ronnie James Dio, who is probably my favorite singer of all time. speaking of somebody who went through changes too, he started off as a doo-wop guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like late 50s, early 60s, he was singing doo-wop music. Like, he's an Italian boy, right? I mean, all good Italian boys in the early 60s would sing doo-wop stuff,
From New
right?
Jersey, yeah.
From New Jersey, right? And then he turned, and then, I didn't know about Elf or anything, but I'd heard him for the first time in his newer incarnation in Rainbow. Like Man on the Silver Mountain. I was like, what is this? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Then Rainbow Rising and then Kill the King. Like those, like I have a little gym in my basement downstairs, and that's, if I do listen to music, most of the time I listen to podcasts, but when I do listen to music, it's usually me and Ronnie James Dio going to slay the dragon. That's my workout routine,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm all over the place. So that's what's tough, is I like so many kinds of music. When I say, what kind of music am I gonna put out? It's almost like I feel like it's like a ball and chain to have a genre tied to you, because
Sure it is.
people are expecting this, and then that's not. I got that in the blues a little bit too. Is that because I'm too rock and roll to be blues, because a lot of my blues has rock influences, and the blues purists say, well, he's not really blues. He's more of a rock guy with blues licks, And then the rock guys are like, yeah, but I kind of like the blues he does, because it's up tempo and it's. So I always have a foot in one other camp, and so it's been really tough to stick to one style.
Well, I was gonna ask you, like in playing blues, when you're writing songs for an album of your blues stylings, it must be tough to create something new and original within a song, because blues is a live art form. It's meant for improvisation. So when you're writing a song, some woman's going to be bad to you, or you just got fired, and then go from there.
Yeah.
So that, I would think that would be a little more challenging than opening up to the whole palette of musical forms that you can use.
What's funny is that I learned this my first year in composition. The very first composition assignment that we had was to make a song only using the names of countries. Mm-hmm. So I said, wow, what a limitation. And so you would say, I don't know, France. And then someone else would come in and say, Italy, France. And then, so it really limited what you had to work with. And I immediately got it. I said, by putting those limitations on you, it forces you to be more creative. Because when you have the whole palette of, it's almost like, I could go anywhere. Oh, where do I go?
Well, there you go. Yeah, too many choices.
But what I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to limit it to this. I'm going to, for me, once I have the tempo in my head, once I know what the beat of the song is, that's when I really start creating. And I find the more limitations I put on it, the more creative you have to be to come up with something good in that limited scheme. So writing these disposable pop hit songs, it's harder than it looks, because to steal a line from Spinal Tap, it's a fine line between clever and stupid. So like a really simple song like Wild Thing, it's literally 3 chords. It's so simple. All right, try to write something like Wild Thing and make it actually work, where people want to listen to it and sing along to it and not laugh at it. So.
That could be said about the Sex Pistols as well, or the Ramones.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you do your writing alone, or do you collaborate with other people?
I started out, all of my early writing was always collaborative. Well, my very first writing was all instrumental. I didn't want to write lyrics as much as I was a singer, but I really identified as a guitar player at that point and a composer. And even to this day, I can write music until all day long. But the second that you put words to it, suddenly your idea, your motivation, everything becomes concrete. Mm-hmm. I'm singing about this. And then it's to avoid all the cliches that come along with singing about that. You've heard so many songs about that because there's very few.
Absolutely.
There's very few subjects. It's love lost. It's you're singing about, or you're singing about a historical event, or it's a protest song, but there's very few actual categories that songs fit in, especially if you in a pop format. So the hardest thing for me is applying lyrics to something, because then you're making a statement, whereas music it's metaphysical. You can just listen to music and your mind will go wherever it wants to go,
I remember having that debate with somebody that felt that every song had to have a explicit meaning, and I'm like, I don't think that's really true. I was just listening to one of my old favorite bands, Rage Against the Machine, and listening to Killing in the Name of. There's like 3 lines in the whole thing. They just repeat, but it's such a powerful song.
So brilliant.
It's the words don't even carry it. It's just the intensity of the song. So that's a whole other. And this person I was discussing this with would dramatically disagree and call it a failed song. And I'm sorry, it's not.
Wow. Yeah, I'd say there's probably about 30 million people worldwide that would contest that.
Yep. So I mean, I'm not a prolific songwriter, and everything I write I tend to keep to myself because I end up, after listening to it a couple times, think it's just stupid.
We're our own worst critics.
Especially, as you mentioned, when it comes to lyrics. Like music, it's all kind of there. You just got to pick the key and the chords and you can build a lot around that. But lyrics is like, okay, I got to be really smart about how I know what the idea is, but... And that's usually where I fall down is I just don't trust my lyrics. I did, but you'll never hear it from me. I did try Chat GPT. I asked a song I was working on. I said, spit out some lyrics based on this, and it did. I'm like, oh, Jesus, it's good.
That's good. It's better than I did. And he did it in 6 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
and you could ask him for endless variations on it, right?
I can see why it's a problem in the real world, but it taught me to buckle down. I've always found that reading helps build your vocabulary, your view of the world.
Also, subjects or a line that you read, it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Well, I actually, on my phone, I have the Notes app there, and it happens a couple times a day, and it's like, oh, this is an interesting notion. I'll enter it in there. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, or maybe nothing, but I've got to have like 300 of these little one-liners like to expand on. That's kind of one of the tricks I use.
Speaking of Chat GPT, so I tried out Suno, which is a AI studio. It's a virtual studio, AI studio. Yeah. So I know there's a lot of people out there who are non-musicians and my friend, the owner of Duffy's and The Atlantic, Ron Edwards, his dad in 1965 wrote some poems that were supposed to be country tunes.
Okay.
Like Drowning in a Sea of Booze, and You Broke My Heart for the Last Time, and he sent these to his son, who kept them in like a registered mail, the so-called poor man's copyright, right? Yeah. And so he popped the lyrics into Suno, and came up with like some really convincing, like decent songs on it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I said, I don't want to let AI write the songs for me. So I dug into my archives because I've been writing songs since the mid-'80s. Excuse me. And I found a couple of tunes that I know I won't release that were not perfect songs, but they were little shining gems of that time in my writing. And I popped the demo that I made on my Fostex X15, right? Sounds pretty cruddy. And there's all these adjustments that you can put. So you could say, okay, I want you to stay really true to the melody and the chords, because I wrote in the whole song. I pop it in there and I say, cover. And it says, okay, it analyzes the song. Okay, this is let's say an alternative rock song, up-tempo, in the key of E with guitars and blah, 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 blah. And it creates its own prompt, and then boom, it shoots out 2 Like 45 seconds later, you got 2 new versions of your song.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was unbelievable because it was like as if I took that song and got into the studio with Mutt Lange and suddenly had like these big produced drums and guitars, and they still don't have lead guitar. Still sounds a little bit synthetic.
Yeah.
Although I'm using the pro version, I'm using their latest. I wanted to do this as an experiment. And you can download these things into stems. So like now I'm taking all my old songs that I know will never be released. Like I have some songs that are like pop dance songs. Like I was into Prince too. I love Prince. So I said, I'm going to write, what would Prince do? Right? So I write a song like that. And it sounds really crappy on my 4-track, but I put that 4-track into Suno and suddenly I get this fully produced track. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, I like what they did there on that part. So I would like cut this part from that version and that part from that version. I'm listening to it and I'm going, holy crap, that took me 1 hour. And I have something that sounds like a record. It's mind-boggling. It's like crack cocaine for music. It's like cocaine for music. It's so addictive, and you could just spend your nights doing this, prompting this thing. Even if you're a non-musician,
yes,
you go down this crazy rabbit hole. But hey, now it's time to do something different, right? Because Suno or ChatGPT, it can sample all the music that's out there. And it can mishmash things together, but it can't create something new. So there's still lots of new music to be created, and that's what keeps me heartened. That's why I'm not depressed about this. I just think I'm actually kind of excited because I'll write a new song, and then I'll pop it into Suno, and this is where I'm going to use it later on. I'm going to say, put some strings to this.
Sure.
Make it sound like it was recorded in Abbey Studio, Abbey Road Studio, by the London Philharmonic.
Yeah.
And add a string section. I want it to go like this. And I just add in the melodies. And this 30 seconds later, this thing will pop out whatever I want. Horns. You want an orchestra? You want strings? You want whatever. So I'm going to experiment a little bit more as a production studio.
Yeah.
Use Suno.
Yeah, I've thought of
enhance
AI to help with recordings, like for mastering and stuff.
It's very good at that.
Yeah, that's what I figure. I mean, mastering is, I guess, it is an art, but it's a necessary evil. After listening to or recording a track and all that, and then you got to sit and listen to it over and over and over. And then you finally go, oh, I hate this song. But the thing about AI,
and you lose your perspective on it because you're so involved in it that you can't hear it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other little thing that I've noticed, now I haven't tried any of the music ones, but so what I've learned about the using commercial AI anyway is they're based on models. Everything they know has been gathered and it builds models. So as an example, I was trying to create an image of a Jimi Hendrix-like character, which it did no problem. But it was playing guitar right-handed. And I said, no, it's got to be left-handed. But then it just put it, like, inverted the image. So he's playing left-handed, but it's a left-handed guitar. And I said, no, make it a right-handed guitar.
You'd fight with that for hours.
I spent like an hour explaining. It's funny in the way you tried to explain to it, no, that's not it. And it goes, I know what you mean. But it actually told me a model doesn't know. It can't do wrong.
Can't get there yet.
It can't do wrong. It can't.
Yeah.
It can't do that fuzzy logic that I'm asking it to do, basically. Yeah. So that's just something to be on the lookout for. Get into
it still has its limitations, but I'm telling you, in another 1 or 2 versions, it's going to be scary good. It's good. I'm sent stuff by friends. Oh, the latest one was Michael Bennett. I don't know if you've seen this guy.
No.
He looks like he's about mid-70s. He's got a big Jesus beard and long hair. And he sings like these really, really soulful kind of soul rock ballads. And I go over to my buddy's place, and he says, Dwane, have you ever heard of this guy? And I'm looking at him, and it's like as if he's playing on America's Got Talent. He's on that stage.
Oh, okay.
Simon Cowell's crying. Sofia Vergara's crying. And all the judges are crying. I'm like, wait a minute. I look at his hands, and I'm like, he's not playing that guitar. But his voice was so good.
Yeah.
And I said to my friend, I said, Steve, that's AI. He goes, what?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, that whole character state. And then, of course, Rick Beato just released something a little while ago. His stat was that 41% of all new music coming out on Spotify right now is AI created.
Oh, yes.
Which is mind-boggling. It's
Yes.
mind-boggling. So, yeah.
Well, which makes sense because I watched another of his episodes and he talked about, took a contemporary top chart song right now, and you listen to it. There's a lot of parts to it, but he said there's over 200 tracks to this song, and I'm thinking, what? 200? Like, how do you keep track of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess AI can definitely help in that area.
Yeah.
But he's not a big fan he's not a big fan of Spotify or AI. I love watching his reviews.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to what you're up to. You're gigging. You're like the busiest musician I know.
Yeah.
You like what, 5-6 nights a week at least?
Well, I slowed down. I try to keep it to 3 or 4 maximum because I have other things that I'm doing right now. I also have I'm going to reboot a YouTube channel for guitar, Double D's Rock School. Mm-hmm. I have a few videos out there now, and it's they're getting some traction. I have about 1 million views overall on my channel. So I'm seeing that as a like my summer project is to, because I started this thing without having like a guitar method.
Yeah.
So I'm putting together my guitar method now, and this summer I'm going to reboot my Double D's Rock School on YouTube, and I will have my guitar method to sell, to share. It's not, it's about making money, but I don't expect to be rich on this. I really love sharing my passion for music with other people.
Well, at 1 million views, you must be monetizing this.
Yeah. It's monetized. It's pretty cool. It's not. I'm not making any big money. I mean, of course, all my investment in the, I bought a $10,000 laptop and and studio lights and cameras and all. So I'm still in the hole, but it's a very promising thing, And if I have actually something to promote on my channel, whereas I was just doing one-off videos, hoping to get views, and then I said, wow, I don't really like the idea of chasing a new video topic every week, hoping that I get the views. I want to do videos that I'm passionate about. I want to do things that I think are important. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, But so I'm working on that, and I'm writing some new music too. And I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what kind of music it's going to be yet. It might be blues, but my next album that's coming out is going to be a solo album. I work a lot. I do a lot of solo shows, and I work with loopers a lot.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen my looper show, but I have like an electronic drum pad, and I have a guitar, and I do the one-man band thing, kind of like.
Are you doing that tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing that tonight at Biggs. At Biggs.
I might pop over.
Yeah. So it's fun. So I'm working. So what I'm doing now is when I'm gigging in the bars and stuff like that. I mean, I'll throw some of my own songs in there, but I'm writing songs that are going to be made specifically for that format where I could exploit that. So. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on, and I'm got a lot of shows coming up. Playing at Mont Tremblant Blues in July.
Wow.
Playing at a music festival in Morrisburg in August. I'm playing at another blues festival in Bécancour, Moulin Gin and Blues. Also late July. Lots of stuff, and then
do you do all your own booking?
I have a booker who books a lot of the blues stuff.
Okay.
It's Brian Slack. Brian Slack
Oh,
is
yeah.
he's
Okay.
very well connected. He's the guy in blues, and
Okay.
and I also work with most of the time I work with Montreal Talent Agency. Okay. Oh, and May 22nd I'll be playing on the F1 stage on Crescent,
nice.
downtown Montreal for Friday May 22nd. I'll be playing there. They're having a classic rock night, so I'm going to be opening up for a Bon Jovi tribute band.
What a nice opportunity!
Yeah. Well, that's thanks to Ron Langlois at Montreal Talent Agency. Yeah.
I was gonna say, are you playing at the Ottawa Blues Festival?
No, I've never played. I've never played the Ottawa Blues Festival, and there's not much blues happening there.
There's not.
No, there's not. It's not a blues festival anymore.
Just coincidentally, on the closing, I was just looking at the itinerary and the closing night, and I was, Paolo Stante's got himself a
That's
place
right.
on the stage.
Yeah,
good for him.
Good for him. I was happy to hear that. Yeah.
Because he's definitely a blues guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like right up the Robin Trower, Johnny Winter, Stevie Ray stuff. Yeah.
Well, that signals our time to slow it down here. Dwayne, thanks very much.
It was an absolute pleasure, David.
We'll do this again.
I hope so. I hope so.
All right.
Pleasure.
Take care. Good luck. And we'll see you tonight.
We'll see you out there.
Well, all right. That's a wrap. Huge thanks to Dwane Dixon for pulling up a stool and hanging out. If you liked what you heard, go check him out. Support local music. Go to a show. Buy some merch, and make some noise. Before we go, one last check-in. How's your stool? I'm Dave Randall. This is Howz Yer Stool, and we'll catch you next time. This has been a Bandit Monterey production.